Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nerd Haven podcast. This is episode 26, and finally, we have arrived at Avengers Endgame. With me, I have John Aaron, as per usual. John, how are you, buddy?
Hello. For a moment, I thought, what if I don't reply? What if he suddenly starts panicking that, I disconnected or that my audio levels are incorrect on your end and stuff like that. But I then stopped myself and figured I would be nice today. And I didn't do that. I'm fine, thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to finally finish this, I would say, not exactly this journey, but this huge chapter of MCU universe.
Yeah, no, I am super excited to finally do this because we have so many things that I want to do on the show too, and we just cannot do it until we're done with this. But uh if you had decided to be annoying and do what you just said, I would have just moved on to our next guest, which is my wife once again, Veronica.
Hello. So happy to be back. Excited to talk about this episode. So, just a quick question, John, are you watching these in order or any type of order, or just all scattered? I think we spoke about this before.
Well, I have developed my own version of an order that
Okay.
is very unpopular to M9 and any MCU fans, which of course I started with Doctor Strange, which
Okay.
apparently is not the very first movie in the MCU universe. And, then I started from like the oldest ones, but it's there is not really any rhyme and logic behind it. I just kind of saw the premise of Doctor Strange. I was like, oh, this sounds cool. I'm going to watch it. I didn't even know it was from the MCU universe or what it was. So just kind of watched Doctor Strange. I kind of liked it. And then I watched Thor. But like the podcasts we have done by watching Doctor Strange. And then, we started with the Hulk and all the way
Okay.
to the Endgame. So yes, pretty much in order.
Okay. Yeah, so then my follow-up question was going to be, did you know like the importance of each character in this one? And did you care? That's my next question.
So yes, I would say that this is not only my second rewatch of the entire MCU universe, or at least most of it.
Mm.
This is also like my fourth or fifth times I watched the Endgame because there were certain things that I wanted to make sure that I understand and comprehend properly, especially for this podcast. But at the same time, I would also need to say that I had another point and I already forgot it. So I'm just gonna transition into asking you guys because every time we move on to one of these larger franchise movies that are just so very important for the MCU fans, I want to hear your opinions or your thoughts or your experience when you first watched this. Because when I watched it, even for the first time, I already had certain things spoiled. I didn't really care
Mm.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really impact my experience. But of course, I knew, like Iron Man, I knew Thanos, I knew the snap and stuff like that. I knew, the Spider Man stuff. But you guys saw this raw. Like, you didn't have it spoiled. You may have heard, like, some
Mm-hmm.
theories and stuff. But, like, I'm very curious. Where did you watch it? How did it make you feel? What was the overall reception from the fan base?
Yeah, so I think that that's one of the biggest things about Avengers Endgame is the actual movie theater going experience that it was, because there has never been a movie that is actually an event like this game, like Endgame. We were in a well. Let's start with the fact that we bought tickets. I don't know, months ahead of time,
Mhm.
and we had, I think, 4 or 5 of us trying to get the tickets at the same time, just in case we couldn't get them, and the websites were crashing. I think I managed to get them, or
Mhm.
I'm not
You
sure if
did,
Juan
yeah.
did. Um, I managed to get them for 6 of us, and I picked, great seats. This was in a brand new theater that we never had gone to, but it was like kind of like a premium, nice theater. And when we were sitting down to watch this movie, it was just like the murmurs of the crowd, everyone not knowing what was happening, or what we were gonna get ourselves into. And this was such an epic event in in a crowd that I don't think like I've still seen the movie several times since then, and I enjoy the moments that give me goosebumps over and over again. But nothing like a crowd just coming together and like cheering and experiencing this all for the first moment. Like I will never have Avengers Endgame for the first time again. You know,
Yeah, it was definitely the vibes too, right? The energy, everybody there, like feeling the same way that you feel, the excitement. Definitely the vibes were immaculate, how the youngins say. But it was definitely an experience, yeah, to say it. I want to say it's kind of like the Star Wars of our generation, right? Like we didn't already knew the plot twist to Star Wars. If you haven't seen it, I don't know. I'm sorry. But there's a plot twist that everybody talks about that's spoiled, right, for us. But I can only imagine this is probably the equivalent of how the people, like how our parents felt when they first saw that. So I just thinking about that now is kind of like comparing the two. I'm like, yeah, this is a really good like experience and to I think we watched it multiple times in theaters. I think we
we
went
did
like twice or three times.
3 times, I think. Yeah.
And this is like a 3-hour movie. And we knew when to get up and go, okay, let's go to the bathroom now. Like, like which is cool, like the second time. And then watching it a second time, you see things that you missed the first time. And then the same thing with the third time. You see things that you're like, oh shit, I missed that on the second time too. So it was definitely a great experience. I really enjoyed it.
And I think there was also that pressure of like what you said of trying not to be spoiled.
Mm.
And that's why we always try to get into the preview nights, which is like Thursday nights. Um, because that's like when everyone is watching it for the first time before social media starts spoiling things and whatever. Because you have those type of trolls that
Mm.
will try to spoil anything for no reason. Um, and so yeah, so it was difficult to get into, but once we did, it was amazing. Um, but that's as far as the experience goes. I think the movie itself, with time, I have learned that I probably don't like it as much as Infinity War, only because of the fact that Infinity War is the foundation. Like Endgame wouldn't exist without Infinity War. Endgame was the result of everything, the climax or the conclusion. Um, but everything that was set up, all of the weight, the pressure, the circumstances, kind of all happen in Infinity War. Um, but I think with the way that it was is set up, it's just like a 1-2 punch. Like Endgame still had some really great moments. But getting into the movie, John, how do you feel about the movie itself? Because you didn't have that event, you didn't have that experience that we did.
Yeah, for me, it certainly wasn't this cultural event like it was for you guys, or at least for the M9 household. But I presume that you were far from the only ones who experienced this on such a grand scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really sorry for being so nitpicky, Veronica, but I have to correct you on something very important. The younglings, as you call them, would never say the word immaculate.
I
These days,
had
they would say something.
I had the exact
Thank
same
you,
thought
M9.
when she said it. I was like, no
The
kid says
vibes
that.
are immaculate. I
It's
feel
very
like
sweet of you to say that, to attribute them
I'm an
such a power of vocabulary and stuff. But these days they would say something on the lines of "bus saying no cap," and they would be
Oh,
done with it.
okay.
Yep.
I'm
So
a
yeah,
I'm a millennial. I don't know. I try to keep up.
bless you for
Hmm.
your, I would say, extremely generous interpretation of how the young people speak.
Oh
To
man.
answer your question, for me it was just let's just watch it on the Netflix or Disney Plus, whenever I have time to kind of get through this. As I said the last time, I liked Infinity War, and I thought that is when the franchise should have ended because I thought it was kind of perfect. And I saw this movie as kind of an unnecessary stretch of not just this plotline, this storyline, but of the entire franchise. I saw this as a marketing ploy, how to squeeze every single ounce of money and to give the viewers pretty much what they want. I understand, the pandering to the tropes and just like I understand. And even though this was a problem for me during the first watches of this movie, upon like third or fourth, I was able to get over some of my complaints. I still have many, and I will mention them, but kind of judging this movie for what it is, I would be a fool not to not exactly embrace, but like understand the hype that you mentioned. You know, the epic moments that were there, the amazing performance of the actors, at least some of them, and even though the second fight was kind of just a repeat of the first one in a way, it was still epic. It was still glorious. It had me at the edge of my seat, and yeah, we will get to all those moments, no doubt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think, see, like, I kind of understand where you're coming from in the sense that by now, 20 something episodes into the MCU talk, I understand better that the things that you look for in a movie. And I feel like in this one, with the exception of a few moments, there wasn't a lot of those character depths that you enjoy and those dialogue moments, because it was action packed, because it already happened in Infinity War, because we're just trying to get over what happened, or like or try to conclude everything. So it to me, this felt like Endgame felt like the last 10 minutes of a finale of a show, where the all the epicness already happened, and now we just have to end it. But
Yeah, yeah. To me, it kind of feels like this movie is the last 20 minutes of The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, like those stretched parts where Frodo is going back to the Shire and where he's just, writing his book and he's like, oh, it hurts, the wound, it will never heal. I must go with the elves to
yeah, it had
the
a lot of moments like that.
Undying
Yeah.
Lands.
Yeah, it had a lot
So
of
in a
moments of
way,
closure.
3 fucking hours. It's a lot. Like, I understand this is the payoff, but it's the second payoff. The Infinite War to me was a payoff, the perfect payoff. This is like the payoff of a payoff. It's like, finishing sex and being like, hey, honey, let's do it again. It's like, ugh, it hurts. I cannot even get it up. This is just too much. You know
Yeah.
what I mean. Well, you probably don't. I mean, you're a different breed, but for us mere mortals, we are just frail and we only have a limited amount of attention span and emotional baggage we can comprehend. But there were redeeming qualities about this movie, which we'll get to. But for now, I feel like we need to start this movie by discussing our thoughts on the time travel and on the not exactly multiverse stuff, but like time travel in general. How do you guys feel about how this movie handled time travel? And I'm sorry for kind of overtaking the role of a moderator, but I'm really curious about your thoughts before I unleash my thoughts upon you.
No, I actually so time travel is one of the things that I really enjoy about this movie in concept. Um I didn't really like that some of the things were basically like rehashes, or like um it's like, hey, we loved these moments in our journey. Let's revisit those epic moments.
Mm.
And it ended up just being like um just like previously on Avengers. Like that's basically what it ended up being. However, in the ideology of it, it's probably one of my best um or preferred ways of handling um time travel, because I think Veronica and I had this conversation before, where in movies or like in cinema, it's always more entertaining to see the whole butterfly effect thing. Like you go back, you change one thing, everything in the future changes, like Back to the Future. I think that that's more entertaining.
Mhm.
But I personally like the idea because it makes more sense to me that if you go back and change time, then it just branches off to a different timeline, because the future still happened. Like you still came back from the future to the past, and that didn't go anywhere. Um, so that's kind of why I enjoy what Avengers did, and the way that they spelled it out was like, you know what, that makes sense.
Yeah, like to your point, going back to each thing, it's like they're adding they're branching off into a different timeline every time they go back. Each time they went back to a different event, right? So I enjoyed the fact that there are so many different theories of time travel, right? Like, like there's no right way to time travel, or no wrong or right way to like change the future, change the past. They kind of explain it obviously in this universe. Like you go back and you can't change what already happened. That's a different branch. And I thought that was really interesting because it expanded on that theory. But to your point, John, with the whole 3 hours and like it going on for so long as it did, I honestly felt because I had the chance to rewatch it today. I had it in the background and I was like, okay, yeah. Like, I looked and I'm like, oh yeah, or this is a good part. This is what I really think that they wanted to do with this universe is tie it up with like a little bow, because Infinity War, we lost a lot of main characters. So with this one, it's like to make everybody happy, we bring them back, but then we still take some characters away, but in a way that you're like, all right, you've already dealt with the pain from Infinity War, and you're like, all right, it still hits as hard, but it doesn't hurt as much, maybe. I don't know if that's what their point was, but it does conclude it, tie it up in a nice little bow, and everybody gets their little happy ending, up until that point. So that's what I
Agreed.
feel, that they were trying to make everybody happy. Like, I was going to say the consumer.
Because
Us.
at the end of the day, it's a comic book movie,
Yeah.
not a drama.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's meant to provoke a good feeling,
Mhm.
not to be a tragedy. It's not, Romeo and Juliet or anything
Yeah.
like that.
And Infinity War hurt a lot of people.
It did.
It made me cry so much, but in a good way. It was like nice to have like the whole epic of it, right, was great to experience.
So, all right.
Indeed.
What about
And,
what about you, John?
I like your point, M9, about the fact that this is not like a Shakespearean drama, that it might have some elements of it. I mentioned many times how much I enjoyed some of the writing, even how clever some of the cleverly written some of the characters are. And when it comes to these Avengers franchises within the MCU franchise, I am usually not much of a fan because, as you mentioned, I have my own preferences when it comes to the MCU movies, and it couldn't be further from the Avengers.
Right.
But I fully understand the place within the universe for these kind of movies, and I fully understand that this kind of payoff was well deserved for the fans. And this is a comic book franchise, and there were moments that I actually very much appreciate, like for example seeing the Ancient One, during those cameos whenever they time traveling, seeing freaking Frigga. It's like two of my favorite characters, and it's like they knew,
Right.
we also have John to appease or appeal to, and I appreciated it. It was nice, and I thought that it was very tastefully done, and they had their moment to shine, even though this movie is packed with so many other more important characters. I appreciate that about the MCU universe. I always did, the way they handle cameos and kind of how everything is connected. And yeah, it's just very nice.
What about the
But
time
I didn't
travel
give you my
stuff?
thoughts on the time travel. Yes.
Yeah.
So I am glad that you guys mentioned the things you did. And I certainly could get behind the idea of these branching universes and the fact that the moment you time travel, you create a whole new different reality, a branched reality that starts living its own life, on the connected timeline. However, I also watched the Loki show after watching the Endgame, and I watched it several times, and I liked it. And I feel like it becomes rather problematic the way that this movie's just premise kind of relies on the time travel and these branching timelines, and then eventually even multiverses and stuff. I think that this movie handled time travel in a very convenient and kind of lazily written way, where it becomes a device of no consequences, at least on the ethical ramification side, where even though you create these branches with your actions by time traveling into the past, they then kind of ignore them, and then they kind of go back to their original branch without a single care about what's going to happen in the other one. Yes, they had a plan, to then like return the stones to the original branch, but like, why would they bother? They still did a bunch of things, like unleash Loki onto the world by freeing him up whenever they try to do the Infinity Stone time heist. And I think that basically in this model of time travel, it pretty much makes it like a no consequence. It lacks the. I cannot really get involved or I don't know care about like all these other branches of timelines, and I feel like it's just all too very convenient. Without prolonging my stupid rant about this.
I completely agree with what you're saying, even though that I was defending, the way that it's made. Um, and I don't think that you're wrong because of the fact that like I'm gonna use this as an excuse, but it's the reason. It's a comic book movie, and um,
Yeah.
when in comic book movies, a lot of convenient things happen, or even in comic books, period. A lot of convenient things happen. Like you hear about the like, oh, if you didn't actually see them die, they didn't die, or the nobody's actually dead because there's other versions of them. So it's like, there is a strong lack of responsibility and vulnerability when it comes to certain characters because you never really lose anyone, and I think that becomes a problem with these movies, except for when the fact that you think like, or I guess you should just be prepared to expect it, because it is what it is.
Indeed, indeed. And another movie that kind of complicates things even further is the second Doctor Strange movie that tries to convince us extremely strongly to care about all these other multiverses, all these other timelines.
Right.
Well, timelines, that was basically the Loki show. All these other timelines matter. And we kind of have to stop anyone who branches them out, who creates more of them. Where was the TVA during these heists? I know that they referenced it, they mentioned it, that certain things must happen. And this was one of them, and that's so freaking
So
convenient
convenient,
thing to
yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
They
convenient plot points.
and I'm sorry for going back into Loki show, but they had fucking Infinity Stones in their wardrobe, like in the evidence locker. They were just lying there, like as worthless trinkets. Like, couldn't they just kind of intervene and spare all this suffering? And it just, I understand the show must go on, and we don't have to dwell on this. It's just that I feel like this. I don't know how, but I feel like it could have been done better. And I kind of think that there is a reason why the butterfly effect when it comes to time travel is so important, because it kind of eliminates these convenient plot holes, that you can just
Mhm.
go into the past and it doesn't matter how many
Actions
branches
have
and timelines. Yeah,
consequences,
actions should have consequences. And when it
Yeah.
comes to time travel, they should. And that was my, I guess, biggest complaint about the whole time travel thing and how it was handled. I understand that it's necessary for this movie and the upcoming movies to operate. I understand the multiverse stuff is extremely important. I just hate it, and I wish they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, to your guys' point with the convenience of it all, it's the same thing. It's like when other things are happening, it's like, okay, with Spider-Man, it's like, where the heck was Tony Stark, or where the heck were the Avengers when anything?
Everything's always convenient.
Yeah, it's always just convenient for them to be all together in one spot for this big major event that's going on right here, right now, in New York City. But it's like, where are they? I guess to make the point that it's like, okay, this is like a big event, right? Versus, let's say, Spider-Man in the city with crime and like little stuff going on there or whatever.
And I think that that's why John prefers those like neighborhood or
Mhm.
small like boots in the ground type of movies, other than these big eventful ones, because the bigger it gets, the more suspension of disbelief you need.
Yeah.
But
Very much so. But like
but
then again, the Loki show, it pretty much handled like with the most important stuff on the most global scale imaginable. But I guess because it had more time to breathe and it had more time to kind of
yeah,
explain things
Mm.
and pitch up, I kind of managed to suspend my disbelief a bit more when it comes to that show. It
it,
still wasn't perfect. It still had some issues, but I would prefer if some of these extremely important fundamental concepts were not resolved in a single movie.
Yeah, and I think that the Loki show did it better in the sense that that the timelines were just as affected, or even or maybe even more so, in Loki, or with some of the events that Thanos was going crazy. But Loki it felt like it had weight to these timelines being lost, or being pruned, or whatever. That some of that weight, you did feel it, and it all fell down on Loki, and he took the responsibility of them, right? in in Endgame, like what you were saying, it didn't feel like they were so focused on that then and there that they were like, you know, it's like what they say, empathy only goes like as far as you can see, or like as far as it affects you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's something they definitely practice in this movie.
Yeah, and I could easily just blame the characters, for my issues with the time travel, because it was mainly like the fucking Hulk and how he approached, the whole time travel thing, and how he tried to explain it, and how he didn't show a single fuck about, the other timelines and branches.
Yeah.
But then the Ancient One saved it because she actually almost explained it in a way where I could totally get behind that, that the things on the timeline do have impact. And like,
Mhm.
if you go back into the past and change their past, maybe not your past, you are still affecting billions of people,
Yeah, I
And
don't
like,
know
you
if
need to
that
give me the
was.
Infinity Stone back, you motherfucker.
I don't know if that was a reshoot, or like something that was added later on, because it felt like we were explained the same concept two different times.
Mhm.
And her interpretation did a better job of it. And almost like a simpler version. It's like, oh my god, you just visually showed me what the hell I'm looking at. And back when they were like in the lab and tried to explain it all, I get it was a bit convoluted. But uh, now that you mentioned Smart Hulk, or Professor Hulk, I hated him. Um, I I'm not a fan of the Bruce Banner merging like brains and bronze with the Hulk. I am not a fan with the the nerfing, I should say, of the Hulk in the MCU. Ever since the beginning, I thought that his introduction was handled pretty well. Those scenes with Black Widow and all those stuff that she generally like looked terrified. Um, that in which I loved from the Hulk was completely removed, and the Hulk is just turned into another muscle man. Um, and I'm not a fan.
I didn't mind
They
him.
did him so dirty.
I didn't
feel
mind
like
him. No, I thought he was. I don't know. I felt like the whole point of the Hulk to me is Bruce Banner trying to balance, his anger
Mhm.
and his doctorate, right? Like, because he's a doctor, he's a smart guy. So to me, it was like, okay, he's, mixing the brain with the brawn. I didn't mind him at all. I didn't mind Smart Hulk.
I thought he was funny, and I'm not saying that it didn't work for what they were trying to do. I just wish they weren't trying to do what they did. um, it worked for what they were trying to do, but I've always preferred Madman Hulk, like smash Hulk, destroy everything inside Hulk.
Mhm.
But you know,
I get that.
it's ripped from the comics.
I see. I could embrace this third version of a Hulk if it was the third version. If he was still able to like transition depending on his mood between Banner and the Crazy Hulk, and have this one as like the middle ground, that I could get behind.
Mhm.
But like
if his anger
I
still
feel
got
like
to him.
yeah. I feel like this was an unfortunate ending to his entire character, and the things that they build up with Scarlett Johansson over the years. It just none of it mattered to me. Like it was just such a wasted time and effort, into all of those uh, into Bruce Banner as a character. I feel like this movie kind of did him dirty in that, or at least it didn't go the route where I would appreciate it or prefer, similar to M9.
I can understand that. Yeah, because I feel like the same way. It's like they hinted or alluded to him and Natasha having some kind of connection because she would be able to calm him down. And it was like, okay, are they gonna be something? They alluded to that, and then it was like you're saying,
In
it's
several
like for
movies.
nothing. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
for nothing, because it's like okay.
And he was such a juggernaut, like in the very first movie. He was pretty much like not exactly Thanos level power, but he could beat up Thanos if he wanted.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah, in the
when he
comic
was
books, I think
battling
he
the
did.
Abomination.
Yeah,
Oh, well, there you have it.
I just I don't like it just because it's not what I want. But it's one of those
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I'm like, I understand why they did it because it's hard to tell a story with a brute of a man. And um especially with everything that Bruce Banner needed to resolve and to make, Endgame and Infinity War actually work. So I get
Indeed.
it, but it's just not what I would prefer.
Yeah. Can we get another cringy thing out of the way before we move on to
Yes,
more
we're in the
important
dislike
things?
column now.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brie Larson and how much just everyone likes her at the beginning of the movie. Like, everyone brings her up and, I like this one. Guys, I don't know if you have noticed the shitty movie that she had before, but like, I like her. I'm your favorite character and I really want you to know, the audience, that I like her. She's cool. We should have her on the team. Where was she this entire time? Well, the
exactly.
other planets also had similar problems.
Everyone was
Just so
advocating
cringy.
for her or giving like their stamp of approval. It's like, no, nobody liked her movie. We don't like her. Let's. I don't care what Thor says.
Yeah, I think the only reason they liked her was because she brought Tony and Nebula back. Right? She brought the ship back, so she was able to save Tony, but he was literally on his last leg. Like, he was about to die. And that's when she decides to bring him back. It's like, damn, bitch, where you been? Like, where have you been this whole time?
Well, she was clearly getting her Karen haircut because that's the one thing that will absolutely
my
sell her character,
God.
to the wide public audience. Because that haircut, it's just, it's so beautiful. Hey,
awful.
Everybody wants that. Everybody wants
yeah, everybody wants that. That will surely redeem her character in the eyes of public.
In the comics, that haircut looks so nice, and then you see that, and you're like, "What the hell is that?"
I want to speak to your manager.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. So going back to I mean, we're in the dislike column. Captain Marvel, still not a fan of her. And then she's like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna see you later."
Yeah, I brought Tony
Bye.
back. Bye.
Bye. So thank you for that. But she's so OP of a character that's how they need to literally write her off, or the movies wouldn't happen, which is again convenient.
Indeed. I wish I had an engine explode in my face and turn into Superman. That would have been nice, but I guess we don't always get what we want, right?
Yeah. So okay. So what about let's talk about
Other things we hate. I have many.
Okay, no, let's go. What else you got?
Just rapid fire. Captain America shouldn't swear. He shouldn't say son of a bitch. He should say son of a gun. And that's all I have to say to that.
Language.
Language, exactly. It's like, why? I hate the fact that
Death
they are
changes
allowed
you.
to say shit. They're just gonna like rub it in, We're a cool movie now. We have PG-13 rating or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. But they went through a lot, John, and sometimes cursing is the only way to get through it.
Yeah, but we still can have Samuel L. Jackson say motherfucker because that's too much.
That is too much.
Stupid
No,
children who get offended by that,
that's pushing R rating.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. All right, now it's your turn to say something you hate.
What else did I hate? I mean, there wasn't a lot of stuff that I think I hated. But there were things that I feel like I could have done without, and or didn't have the impact I thought it was gonna have. Like everything with, I think I mentioned it before, with like some of the scenes going back in time. It's like, yeah, that was cool to like rewatch, but like I you could have just told me that happened. You didn't have to show me everything.
Don't you have to watch Avengers again? Right? We've already done that.
Especially like fucking Thor: The Dark World. I didn't need to see anything of that movie again in my life. But
How fucking dare you? One of the best movies in the franchise.
but I think other than that, there wasn't really a lot of bad things that affected my experience. the some of the scenes could have been cut down slightly to make the movie not so lengthy. But yeah, I think most of the things for me in this movie are positives. Like I really enjoy like the role that Ant-Man plays in this movie, and in the other movies, which is something that you and I have talked about before. Like such a minor character that ends up being such a pivotal, important role, and I think that that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and to add to that, the character development throughout this whole universe, like to see where what's his name, Hawkeye and Black Widow, like their relationship, like they don't show anything like of whatever happened in Budapest. You know, they don't show any of that stuff, but we know that they have such a good relationship, brother and sister relationship. They love each other so much.
I feel like that should have been the Black Widow movie
Oh
that
my
we
god, that
should
would have
have
been
gotten.
great. That would have been great. But like just again with the character development with Scott, with Captain America, how you're talking about him, like it's true. There's so many things that he's changed, and it's like, and I just with Captain America, and then the Falcon, and then just the way that ended, and with Bucky, like there's been so much character development with every single person
That
here,
fucking
even
guy.
with Thanos. Even
Everybody
with
hates
Thanos.
Bucky.
Why do you hate Bucky?
I said that fucking guy.
Fucking guy.
Because Captain America cannot be trusted. Like if you're on Captain America's side,
Yeah.
you can't be trusted. Because you will do whatever it takes just for one person.
That was his best friend.
Like I don't trust people that are team Cap.
No, I know. When we saw Civil War, I was definitely on Iron Man's side. I was not. I was like, Steve, get your shit together, bro. Like, what is going on? I get it. Like everybody is. There has to be some good in him, and he, thankfully he took a chance though, right?
Yeah.
Because Bucky ended up being. He was just brainwashed, and he was going through his Hydra phase, his Hydra girl era. So he was going through his Hydra girl era, and Bucky believed in him enough to like stand up for him, and but that was a whole other freaking nonsense. But
John, I thought of a moment that I disliked.
Let me just quickly react to this.
Go ahead.
In your pocket.
I got it. I put a pin on it.
Perfect. So Veronica, I think that the Civil War could be easily summed up as your brain would kind of, or your reason would kind of go with Iron Man, but your heart would go, with Captain America. And
Yeah.
those two are kind of, you cannot really blame either, right? Because they are what they are, and they have to follow whatever whatever it tells them, whatever it dictates, and it's overriding, in a way. And some of us are more analytical, others are more emotional. So
I think that's a very good description of it, because I think very logically, and my emotions are usually not a deciding factor. So that's actually a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah, that is.
And to kind of wrap up this final thought, I love that this movie brought up the initial dilemma of Iron Man wanting to shield the planet and prepare it for this essentially endgame, and the fact that he was not allowed to do so because of jerks like Captain America, who wanted to save Bucky and wanted to give people freedom, and like, ooh, surveillance, ooh, it's too much, ooh, yeah, we can't make any more bombs, because what if we turn them against us? Well, at least this way we have a chance, to die with honor. And we did, and we fucking failed, and it's your fault. Captain America, I'm gonna go to my hut, I'm gonna have a child, she's gonna be cute, and I'm just gonna live with Gwyneth Paltrow or whatever her name is, and she's the worst.
I loved Jesus. I loved how petty Tony was there for a moment, because he deserved to be petty. Like I would have just been like, "Hey, you remember when I wanted to make a bunch of like armored
things that would
soldiers?
save us this day?"
Yeah. Good luck.
Imagine fucking Ultron on our side, with all his robots just fighting against Thanos. Oh, and sweet.
So yeah, to that point, right? The character development that had to happen with Steve Rogers because he failed. He was like, "Oh shit!" Like it could have gone a totally different direction, but because of that, he kind of had to like step back and be like, "Damn, I was wrong." And that's hard. That's not easy to do, like as a person. And especially as Captain America, when he had so much like on his shoulders and so much of the weight of like the responsibility of literally the world and like the future of it. So then that blip, that 5 years, he had that time to reflect and kind of be like, well, I fucked up. Like, and it was good to like have that reconnection with Tony right in the beginning. And they still argued in the beginning because they still were not able to see eye to eye because Tony was like, you see, I told your ass. But nobody likes to hear that, right? Nobody likes to hear I told you so.
But sometimes you have to hear it.
You gotta hear it, man. But
I can do this all day.
He was humbled. But yeah, to go back to the thing that I disliked, and this might be a hot take, and I might get some shit for it, but I did not like that female Avengers team up shot.
gasps and girl.
Hashtag girl power.
I love a lot of those characters, and I think they're really cool. But did you all in this in this battle of thousands, did you all just happen to meet up? And like, why were you all together in one little spot just for this shot?
That was definitely fan service just to get all the girls. Like just you said, yeah, hashtag girl power. Let's do this, baby. And I at first I was like, damn, this is cheesy as hell. But then I was like, you know what? I like it. I like a little cheese.
Yeah, I don't know.
May I play a devil's advocate for this?
Yes.
I feel like this shot wasn't for us, M9.
It wasn't.
For those, for people like me, let's call us people, even though sometimes we don't act that way. For men, with junk in the middle of our pants.
Man.
This movie is full of various forms of payoff, pandering to the audience. And I think this franchise rightfully understands that it has a lot of female fans, which is amazing, which is great. I am so glad that this kind of nerdy superhero stuff is something we can share because I come from a community, StarCraft, just competitive esport that mainly has like 99% of the player base and fans are Koreans, South Koreans, males. 0.5% are males from Europe, and 0.00001% is like females from all around the world. And
oh my God.
I adore women. I think they're amazing. I think that they deserve something to get hyped for. I think that they should absolutely have at least a few moments in an important movie like this to be like, hey, this is cool. I want to be like this. Yeah, there is not just like one token lady, with like big boobs and zero armor, just showing off her thongs and I don't know, just making kissy sounds. It's just nice that there are these extremely well written characters, like freaking Scarlet Witch, like the ancient one, like Frigga, like which one again? The Widow and Gamora, and just so many. Yeah, freaking my girl Nebula, absolutely adore her. Yeah. Wasp, absolutely love Hope, and. Even a jerk like me that likes to make fun of himself, that I sometimes have like very edgy jokes and stuff like that. Like I kind of joke about this because it was cool. It was. I'm glad that it was there, and I think that movies. Maybe it could have been done more tastefully, but
that was my problem. That it felt so forced. Like she's not alone. It's like, all right, like because it's been in other movies where like I don't know if it was Infinity War, the one right before this, where I think Scarlet Witch comes down and then the Wakandan, she's like, where has she been this whole time? Like it was like a scene where it was like giving props to how strong she was and how influential she was to the fight, but it didn't feel super forced like that did. But it is what it is. The movie was about moments, right? Like, and that's why I kind of forgive it, because it had a lot of moments that made everyone cheer. And even if that one wasn't for me, it was a moment.
Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I have to go back to work now.
Oh no, really?
I know, I have to make some money, I guess.
Oh, understandable.
We'll continue this conversation.
Yeah, but it was nice having the chat with you, John, as always.
Pleasure was all mine. I only am sad that it couldn't have happened for a bit longer. But
I know. I would love to. I would love to.
We'll finish it off, and in your honor, we will try to conclude things. And hopefully, one day you can give us at least your rating of this movie. And
I can give you that rating real quick. So, how do you guys rate it? A's, like grades, or
we were
numbers?
doing we were doing like ranking, but let's just
It
because
just
this is
vibes.
a lot of movies.
Where does it stand in the overall
yeah, where
movie
does it
list?
stand? Or at least from the Avengers movies.
Okay, for the Avengers movies, this is like top 5 for me. For
There's
sure.
only like 5. What do
Oh,
you
there
mean?
is only 5? I'm trying to think of like the whole universe, I guess.
The Avengers movies.
Okay, Avengers. Yeah, I would say like top 2 or 1. Let's say 1 or 2. I would rank this just because I have recency bias as well. I literally just
You
watched
just
it
watched
again.
it. Yeah.
I literally just watched it again today. But just because
definitely up there.
again, yeah, I feel like the good outweighs the bad in this one. Overall, yeah, the time could have been cut down a lot, but I felt like they built up to it really well and it concluded. And like I said, I enjoy a good ending, and like how Tony said in his in his farewell, I love you 3000. When he was talking to Morgan, he was saying, we all want this to end. We all want a happy ending, right? And he was hoping for the best, and that's all we can do, right? In real life too, we can apply that to our regular.
Okay, before you go,
Mhm.
how did you feel about Avengers Assemble?
Oh my God,
You gotta talk about that.
Okay, yeah, just real quick. I'll clock in a little bit. So I feel like that was just fucking awesome. Like, just again to experience that in the theater with everybody, just to hear everybody, like everybody went ape shit in the theater, and it's just like it's hard not to like be in that atmosphere, not to like feel that same way, and how like awesome that was, and how yes, Captain America was always worthy. And I love that little part. Was it in Infinity War that Thor got scared that he was like, oh shit, he was gonna grab the hammer?
I think that was an Ultron
Okay, Age of Ultron, yeah. So that to me was kind of like a good little like
callback.
full circle moment, right? And it's like, yeah, he is worthy enough to like to have the hammer. And it's like, even though he pisses me the hell off sometimes because he's so damn righteous in his little ways, but it's like that's who he is, right? There has to be somebody to kind of level, right? It can't always. You guys are always. The group isn't always going to agree on everything. And Steve is that like, play devil's advocate and all that stuff. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that Avengers Assemble, or like On Your Left when he was like, and it came through. I was like, oh hell yeah, this is amazing. This is great. And that's kind of like what I guess people expected for Civil War with like that big ass crowd and all that fighting. But this is definitely placed in the right spot, I believe, because Civil War was just between them. It wasn't like every single character that we met. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for letting me be a part of it again. Enjoyed my time, and thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Good luck at work.
Yay!
Bye-bye.
Yay!
It's always nice to have her in here and give her opinion. But that moment, just to kind of piggyback on what she was saying, oh man, John, I know that I always talk about not liking people and not being in crowds, but to have a moment like that being intensified and multiplied and sharing it with people was just insane. Like that the Avengers Assemble moment where everything just comes together, and you're not just watching this amalgamation or this coming together of people in this movie, you are seeing a conclusion of 18 years come together that you've invested into this franchise. And it's just like I get goosebumps every single time like it's my first time.
Yeah, I can totally get behind that. Like even I felt it, watching it just alone, and to watch this in a cinema with people around you just being totally hyped and vibing, I could only describe the feeling or imagine the feeling as like being in the middle of a stadium and just watching your team just score, in the last moment, and being like, oh, this was all worth it. I was here for this entire time. I cheered, and now we can all just experience the joy as a collective, and it was worth it.
Agreed. And it's funny because so we were talking about how like Endgame itself, it's not only the conclusion of the storyline. Like it feels like it's a celebration. Like it is the big bang of the MCU, and there's so many of those moments that make it feel that way. But
Indeed.
What are some of your favorite moments from the movie?
I have many, actually. I still have a few that I will mention as the ones that I hate, but I think it is time for us to move on to some of the positive stuff to kind of balance things out. I'm glad that you and Veronica mentioned a certain character. I thought about this because I was actually kind of surprised whenever I first watched this movie. I don't know who it was in the writer room who thought to themselves, this movie needs to be saved. There is something not quite right with it. But there is only one man right for the job who can save this movie. Scott motherfucking Lang. Let's bring him on the
Yeah.
scene. Let's give him the pivotal instrumental role to save this franchise. And we're still gonna treat him like crap, because it's not an Ant-Man movie, but god damn it, give the man a second burrito because he deserves it, and he is just amazing. I'm so glad I watched all the Ant-Man movies. I'm so glad I was here on this journey. It was just so eerie for him to appear in this dystopian future, just not knowing where everyone is, and just then seeing Cassie, as a grown up. It was just so cool. Like,
It
I
was.
hate Captain America. I hate where he's like, hey, you gotta move on. You gotta do something with your life. Unless, of course, it's me, because no, I will go into the past and just, bang the chick with British accent and just completely ignore the fact that, she was happily married, lived her life, had children, and I'm going to deprive her of that timeline and universe completely just for selfish reasons, because I'm Captain America and I always care about others first, except for this time. But that's besides the point. We'll get to that. But Scott, I am just so glad that he had this role. He deserved it. He deserved the paycheck. He was so great, and I am just overjoyed that they give him this role.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a pivotal moment for such a small character that it's very satisfying. And like what you said, the fact that it started with him not knowing like what happened, he just came back and time hadn't really moved for him, so it was crazy. That feeling of desperation that started sinking in as we saw like the environment was it added so much weight to his character and to what happened in the world, because we knew what happened, but we hadn't stepped in the shoes of somebody that didn't know what was going on until then. And I thought that it was a very interesting plot device.
Very much so.
But yeah, Scott motherfucking Lang is so good. What else? We have a lot of great moments, but the I guess Captain America wielding the hammer for the first time was epic.
Hated it.
You hated it? Why?
Because it's Thor's hammer, and like, is Captain America the only one who's worth he's still
He's worthy.
worthy? I don't.
Well, Vision
It's
is
just,
apparently.
yeah, and for Vision, I love that he was able to do that. With Captain America, I just hate that it immediately he immediately became much stronger with it than Thor ever was. I feel like he used it for the first time and he was just immediately spinning it, like a freaking yo-yo, like a master. And I feel like it should have been. I would give him like a rudimentary moveset, where he would still struggle with it a bit. Where sure the hammer could do most of the heavy lifting, but I just didn't like that he immediately became just stronger with the hammer than Thor. That's
I
what it felt like to me. It felt undeserved.
I kind of agree with the actual practice of it, because it's like you've never used this thing before, right? But um it's weird, right? Because how do you balance that? Like it was said very early on in the Thor movies that anybody that wields the hammer is gifted the power of Thor, right? Like, so
Hmm.
he is going to have those powers, but how do you learn how to use them? How do you know how spinning this thing is going to make you fly forward and stuff like that? Like those are the things that I understand, and it was definitely just for coolness factor. um but there's things about that the like when I look beyond the coolness of it, sometimes I think he's not worthy. Like
Yeah,
sometimes I
agreed.
feel like he used to be worthy and he
He
no
used to. Yes,
longer is.
he's a selfish prick.
Hmm.
Well, at least at the end of the movie. But I, you described it perfectly. I think he used to be worthy, and I don't think that the way his character turned out is worthy anymore. I think there were others that were more worthy. Give the hammer to Scott motherfucking Lang because he is worthy.
Right? Doing everything from like the goodness of his heart. I mean, he was kind of a thief, right? But like always with good
He
intentions in
stole
mind.
our hearts.
Exactly. But yeah, anyway, and then there is all of the like well, the I am Iron Man moment. Again, another one that it's it's just a callback to the original like I am Iron Man, but in the moment it also kind of makes no sense. Like he's like he's like I'm inevitable or like it's inevitable and he's like I am Iron Man. It's like why are you saying that? We know you're Iron Man.
No,
But like
I liked it. You know, I am
it's good. It's
inevitable,
good.
and I'm Iron Man. It was just a cool one-liner. You know, that
Yeah, it was
established.
it was like Tony going back or ending the way he started, and it was kind of poetic. Like he was Iron Man. He didn't say it's Tony Stark. He died as Iron Man, and I think that that's it was beautiful.
Indeed, indeed. Another thing that I could mention as the one that I liked was, of course, Captain doing the Hail Hydra. I thought that was amazing.
Oh my god, that was genius. That was kind of the thing
And
that I really enjoyed seeing because like what would you do if you have the knowledge of the future in the past, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what he did. Smart.
Indeed, and even the fact that when he then met himself, you know, the past himself, and when he thought it was Loki, you know, it just made complete sense because that's exactly what Loki would do.
Yes, yes. That was actually very funny. Something I didn't expect, like in dialogue, but it felt so natural.
And just Loki making fun of Captain America, turning into him and being like, it's just perfect.
Agreed. Agreed. Those moments that you that because I used to think about it before, right? Like how some of the movies back in the day, like Loki didn't have a lot of Lokiisms. Like we didn't see Loki be Loki in a lot of movies, or a lot of
Mhm.
scenes. So it was fun that they kind of included that little shot of Loki doing that.
Indeed, indeed. Another thing, and you already mentioned that you didn't really enjoy some of the time traveling stuff where they revisited certain characters or moments in the past, but I absolutely adored both the Ancient One, as I mentioned, and the fact that she referenced Strange is supposed to be the best of us. I
Hmm.
thought it was just the amazing reasoning behind why she gave him so many chances in the first movie that we watched, and like why she even gave a fuck about him because he was kind of a prick, you know, not worthy of anything essentially. Yet it's like she knew the future. It's like she was privy of his importance, and that's why she insisted on giving him, you know, the chance, and why she taught him. And it's as if she knew the future, and she did. And now we know
Yeah,
that she did.
that was amazing. Like it was amazing in so many layered ways because she was the keeper of the time stone, and just like um Doctor Strange being able to see like 4 million whatever outcomes, whatever the hell it was. She could have been right, like she could have done that, and she knows everything that was past and future. And for that moment to show that kind of importance to her power beyond what we saw in Doctor Strange was was such a nod to her character and also a nod to the power of that gemstone, um and also it kind of even uh made it even more relevant the fact that time isn't, you know, linear, or time could be manipulated and all these things. So like I love that she was just like Strange is meant to be, and she hasn't even met him yet, which is amazing. Like uh and those that was actually one of the scenes for many reasons with her and the Hulk and the Time Stone and that was one of the scenes that I actually did like because it was new. It didn't feel like a rehash of
Mm-hmm.
other scenes, which was kind of my problem with the time traveling thing. It's like, oh, it was like the best moments of Avengers.
Yeah. It didn't just rely on nostalgia. It was the
Hmm.
anchor to the past movies. It was the reference. It was the consistency within the timeline of the movies, and it was just masterfully done. Such a short scene, but so impactful. At least to me. That's exactly the kind of stuff I loved so much about this franchise.
Agreed, agreed. So what do you think about some of the, well, let's talk about the sacrifices and like Black Widow's sacrifice. How did you feel about that story point, that story arc, and like Natasha and Clint like being there together and that happening?
I think that it should have been Clint. I felt like Johansson had more to offer and had more to live for and had more to do afterwards. But I can only imagine that Scarlett Johansson is too expensive, and they basically had to axe her. And it's a bit more, I would say, fiscal responsible to keep whoever plays freaking Clint. So but like I don't like his character. I didn't like him at all in this movie. I didn't like what he turned into. I didn't like how he pretty much, how Scott was like, "Hey, I'm nervous. I'm gonna, lose this one of the only pin particles that we have." And Clooney is just like, "I'm gonna be the Ant-Man, because I have so much experience being an Ant-Man, even though I've never done this before." That was just stupid to me. And I never liked Hawkeye. I certainly didn't like him in this universe. I understand that the scene on Voromir must have been very emotional for many. I was just kind of the fight didn't really make sense to me. Like, I know that for some it must have been very like tear jerking, and it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna do this? I just like, just decide amongst each other like adults. And like, what the fuck is even the point of this? Like, what if one person only showed up on Voromir? Like, what would you do? Would you just kill yourself and only then get the stone? Would you
Yeah.
like, I don't have to fight the keeper? That makes just no sense to me. That was just bad writing. It's like the trolley problem, it's like, oh no, we have two extremely difficult decisions, none of them are really gonna turn out great, someone has to die, you have to move the trolley either one way and kill 5 people that are like, old, or you can kill like one child that is young. What will you do? Oh, it's an ethical dilemma. No, it's not. Just go fuck yourself and give me a realistic exercise that I can instead solve and apply these ethical principles on, because this is just
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed weird. But it did also kind of seem like what you were saying, like a way to get rid of Natasha's character. Um, and it was what it was. Like it worked for the movie, but it wasn't as impactful as I thought it would be. Um, losing uh the Black Widow, yeah, that was sad because she's been with us since the beginning as well. But it was like what you said. Am I a bad person because I would have preferred it to be Hawkeye?
Yeah, they did her dirty.
Yeah.
Like, it was just an afterthought that she died, fucking Hulk just threw a bench and that was about it. Clint, sure, it impacted him as it should have, but
Mhm.
like, it's like after that it was just like all about, the other things and Tony, and like, and the biggest insult to this is Gamora returning. Like,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson had every fucking reason in the universe to return. Uh, Yet she didn't. Gamora did. And why is what I want to know. Because I cannot find a single reasonable explanation as to why Gamora was allowed to return from the land of the death, and Scarlett Johansson couldn't. It was just
Well,
weird.
Gamora's from a different timeline.
Yeah,
She
but you can bring Infinity Stones from different timeline and they're still around. Why can you bring her? Why can you go back into the past again and just bring her from that timeline into your timeline? Why can't
Yeah.
you do that to basically anyone, Like, hey, fuck their timeline, we created a new branch. Let's just take her from this branch into our branch and problem solved.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And it's like how the fact that it's a different Gamora change our timeline? Like
Yeah. And
why
you know
didn't we
what?
think of
While
any
we're
of
at it,
this?
let's just bring Thanos, from that timeline into our timeline. That makes sense. And his entire army and his entire fucking ship, and his fleet into our timeline. Why not? Makes sense.
Yeah. And Thanos was was exactly the same person. Like no different motivations, no different nothing. It was just like,
No.
what
It
did,
wasn't the same person. Okay, the previous Thanos was cursed with knowledge. This one wasn't because he didn't have any fucking idea who Scarlet Witch was
that's
for
true.
some reason.
That is true. But yeah, it's a lot of points that were way too convenient, but I guess they had to happen to make the movie work. Um, and one of the things that they continue to do is like even with wrapping up certain stories or trying to to get it all wrapped up, they still lay groundwork for new stories, which is like Falcon and Cap and with Thor with the Guardians and all of the multiverse shit, which has not really worked since Endgame. But it's like when you have a movie so massive as this, like such an event movie, it's hard to move forward from this. Do you scale it back? Do you reset? Do you start over from the ground up? It's like where do you go so that fans still get the same satisfaction? Like I don't envy Marvel at all because they were firing off on so many cylinders. Everything was working so well until it wasn't.
They're the victims of their own success.
Yeah.
They were just printing money, and in this day and age, if something is profitable, the only way to move forward is to make it even more profitable, until it just kind of deteriorates and it becomes this caricature of itself, and it just starts completely failing in every regard, and it's kind of unavoidable. It's like when you build an empire, everything is great, eventually it just starts collapsing under its own weight. It's just too many cracks show up, it's kind of impossible to hold together, and you have to destroy it and something new will arise. That's how the unfortunate it's like the unfortunate cyclical event that happens.
Hmm.
And I think that it's impressive that they managed to hold things together for this long. And
For
yeah, there
so
were some
long,
misses
yeah.
along the way, but and even after this, it still gave us like a bunch of amazing shows and a bunch of
Agreed.
amazing movies, which I'm kind of glad that they didn't just stop and did what I expected or what I would have preferred, which would be to end things after Infinity War. We wouldn't have the Loki show, we wouldn't have WandaVision, we wouldn't have like the Daredevil stuff. Yeah, I'm glad that they kept going.
Yeah. So to not make this a 2-hour podcast, let's
Oh, no. This is going to be a 2-hour podcast. I'm sorry,
what
but I still have 2 pages of notes.
I was gonna say, what are some of the other things that you have that you want to go over? Because there's a lot that, I mean, the length of this movie by itself, right, gives us so much to talk about.
I want to pitch you something, if I may, like a
Go
thought
ahead.
experiment. Fat Thor. I
That's a pitch.
could get behind the concept of someone just being so depressed, so beat up, and so kind of done with life that
Yeah.
he end up being like a sad, pathetic excuse of his own self, but like not to a comedic effect. It's also kind of distasteful to turn someone into a drunk and fat guy and be like, look at him, he's so fat. It's so funny, isn't it? He's sad. He lost everything and he failed and he feels horrible about it. So let's use him as something to laugh at. I hated it, but I think there was one thing that could have saved it, and that would be if he had like a montage where he would train again, where he would kind of get out of this slump, where he would get his shit together, and for the end fight he would kind of I know it would have to we would have to suspend all disbelief that things would happen this fast, but
Mhm.
anything can happen in the MCU universe. He's a god after all,
Right.
so maybe he just kind of just or at least partially gets his shit together, stops being a comedic idiot, and turns back into the god of Asgard.
Yeah,
Uh, the fact that it didn't happen completely ruined his character, absolutely in every single regard.
I think I've said this before, but Thor's trajectory in the MCU for me is one of the worst. Um,
Like
a
Human
lo-
Hulk, right?
like Human Hulk, yeah. I see. Chris Hemsworth is a great actor. Chris Hemsworth is a great comedic actor as well. His comedic timing is awesome. Um, however, that's not what I wanted to see Thor being. sure, I think we talked about this before, where if the jokes are because of his actions and he didn't mean to be a joke, then that's kind of funny because he's out of his element. But I don't need him to be the butt of the joke. I don't need to make him a fool in order for me to laugh. And the only thing that I can tell myself, um as a defense for what his character became, or what he was doing, is that depression does some crazy shit to you, right? um Depression really changes the way you think, the way you behave, the way you take care of yourself, or lack thereof. and and I can see that. I can see that being him, because he, during that time, he wasn't him. He was this kind of uh, depressed version of himself. And I agree that maybe like a training montage or something like that would have made it better, like kind of like a redemption thing. But I don't think that they had the time for it. They found him. They were already going into the mission and all that stuff. But it was done for the jokes. And then after that, he has continued to be used for the jokes. And that's why Love and Thunder is one of my least favorite movies. um, it is just, it doesn't work for me. The character as a joke doesn't work for me.
Indeed, indeed. And the only redeeming factor that I would say I was grateful that they brought Thor back for this movie was his. And I'm sorry for constantly bringing this up, but Frigga is such an amazing character, doing Odin's job so much better than Odin ever could have. Just being there, for him when he was traveling into the past, just immediately recognizing, that he's not from this timeline, and just I love her character so much, and the way she acted, as the mother, lifted him up, and that was almost his montage for me. I still think that
Mhm.
this should have been the moment where he stops being a comedic Jar Jar Binks, of the MCU universe. But at least we got Frigga back, and for that I'm grateful.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I
also
agree.
deserved the paycheck.
Yes. What else you got?
Before we completely tire ourselves out, we need to talk about Thanos.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I completely agree.
So let's kind of sum up what Thanos' whole plan for this movie was. Apparently, Thanos had two goals in his life. To eradicate civilizations, to satisfy his unhinged sociological studies about genocide and politics. He kind of wanted to prove his experiments right. He wanted to showcase them on the global scale that, in order for the civilization to thrive, he must kill arbitrary amount of them, 50% randomized, absolutely, even though the randomization is extremely convenient, and some characters have plot armors, but that's besides the point. And then his second goal, once he's done with this, is to essentially live out his Avatar Frontiers of Pandora dream, where he just turns into a Navi and keeps collecting fruit all day, and he just cooks it in his little Navi hut. Have you also noticed that?
Yes.
I kind of, upon like first fourth rewatch, I focused, and he was kind of jamming those fruits, like in that game, whenever you need to press like certain buttons in order to collect it in like the most efficient way possible.
It, yeah, I see. As soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, I see the resemblance.
So I figured this. I have to mention this reference, and you are the only person who will probably get it. But I was still kind of happy whenever I saw him basically being a Shrek, in his little hut on his planet, and just kind of collecting fruits and cooking it.
I kind of love that scene though. In the sense that it's like he won, and it's like, what do you do once you win? Once you do the only thing you were like setting out to be or to do, And
Indeed. But
he has said it before.
he even said it, to, of course, Nebula, and that's how
Mhm.
she knew, that he would be there. But I still fail to understand his reasoning behind the genocide and the fact that he was just like, "Hey, my job is done. Now I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my life on this planet alone." It's like, he himself mentioned that it's just a temporary solution, that the
Mhm.
people are gonna grow up again and more are gonna become a thing. And like, what's gonna happen after? You destroy the Infinity Stones. What is the next Thanos supposed to do? If you consider this to be your main goal to
The
save the
solution,
universe,
yeah.
you also destroy the only way to repeat it, to do it again, And I get it that afterwards, he had even more radical ideas, how he's gonna permanently just destroy the universe and start over. But even that is a temporary solution. Like afterwards, it's like even if you erase everyone's memory and start completely over, like who's to say that this batch of humans and people and living beings are going to be even worse, It's like
Agreed.
you have no guarantee. All of this that you are causing is just pain for the
Speculation.
unnecessary reason. And they even kind of turned him into, I'm gonna enjoy wiping out all of you, just because I can, just because you piss me off. The previous Thanos in Infinity War was much more temper. He wasn't happy
Calculated,
about
yeah.
doing this. Yes, calculated. It wasn't personal. It wasn't like, hey, I'm the bad guy and I'm enjoying doing this. He genuinely believed himself. He believed he was helping the universe. And I could get behind that, And sure, Nazis had a similar idea, but um, it still felt a bit more justifiable than
Yeah,
the
and I
one
think
in
that's
this
what
movie
makes
where he was just a bad guy.
the best villains, right? Like, or the scariest villains is the ones that believe they're
Mhm.
justified in their actions. And but at the moment that it turns into like payback or revenge or pettiness, you start losing that, like, all right, dude, like calm down. It's like and I think that that's kind of what it became after he was just kind of being filled with wrath.
Indeed, indeed. I would just like to see the studies that he's referencing, whatever conclusions he's drawing to use his methods, his extreme methods. He has no scientific basis or backing to support his conclusions. And that is, I would like to conclude this chapter of Thanos, and I'm kind of glad that we are done with that. He had some cool lines, but he was much better to me in the Infinity War.
I agree. And I think also what makes it a little odd or weird when you really think about it is that, yeah, if your intention was to make this happen, right, to make your mission of eliminating 50% of living or of life just to make the worlds better, but you're going away and not seeing the fruit of your labor or seeing the results. Again, what is the point? If what's the point of you doing this if you're gonna turn the other way and not see if it was successful or not? Because you could literally just turn away right now and pretend.
Right. Well, his justification was that he was giving universe a gift. He was curing it.
Yeah,
He was helping it out. And
he
when
was
his work
playing
was
God.
done, he was no longer needed. Yeah, he was exactly playing God. He had these delusions of grandeur that he was needed for this. That it was his purpose, it was his destiny. And afterwards, when he was done, he just removed himself out of the equation. He was no longer
Hmm.
needed. But it was very short-sighted, by him.
He was,
And
yeah.
I kind of agree that someone in this role, a god, you have a certain degree of responsibility, and perhaps you should use the Infinity Stones to kind of course correct along the way and to maintain the new trajectory that you created. If you want to play God, you need to, become him full time. Otherwise, you're just being a dick.
Right. You can't just do it once and then ignore what you created. It's like, I
Exactly.
mean, I
Yeah,
guess
you
there's
need to
enough
embrace the
parents that are
consequences.
like that, but
Yeah, I guess. So he was basically the M9 parent of the universe for a moment.
wow.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts on Nebula and this whole connection between the past Nebula and the timeline current Nebula. The fact that one could see the other one's convenient like point of view,
It
stream sniping essentially.
stream sniping, yeah. It was definitely meta. the I think I had already kind of talked about how like Nebula was starting to win me over in the previous movies, and I think by this one, um I can get behind her character. I like her as a character, but again, it goes back to the word convenience. There's so many things that are like, oh, okay. Well, if that happened, why couldn't it happen the other way around so that she can avoid them, um or it's like why is it just affecting our quote unquote good Nebula or coming back to bite her in the ass, but it's not working both ways. And it's just like, I guess let's just get on with the story.
Yeah, at this point, we were all kind of exhausted, by this. And to me, this just contributes to the lazy and kind of unfortunately bad writing of this movie. This particular reliance on this plot point, hey, we need to warn Thanos, that this time heist is occurring. We have these two nebulas, they're kind of machines, so let's just have only this one, to rely on the fact that she can see what the other one is doing, but not the other way around, because that would ruin our plans. Just make different plans. This was stupid.
Just make different plans. Yeah.
I hated it. I love Nebula. She's very cool character, but this was just so unnecessary and so weird. But to kind of just again balance it with something good, I absolutely adored how we saw Quill, sorry, just on the planet, just recapping, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, him just dancing around, kicking the rats, and we saw him like without the music, just kind of singing to himself like an idiot, and Rhodey and Nebula watching him, and then they just freaking knocked him out, and it was done. It was just so sweet.
I
Great
I
comedy
really
at that
like that,
point.
yeah, because it was like it was very obvious that we were rewatching a scene, but from like a different perspective, and it was awesome.
Indeed, indeed. I still think that because of the Loki show, TVA's role in this movie should be kind of a given, at least something probably could be
Right.
referenced. Or in the Loki movie, it probably could have been discussed a bit more instead of just, hey, this was supposed to happen. So we kind of allowed it to happen. But that's future Jones and M9's problem to discuss with
Discussion.
the Loki
Yeah.
show. Indeed, indeed. You mentioned now something because I spoke for too long.
No, I mean, yeah, I definitely feel like the TVA should have been more present. Like it didn't even have to be anything that specific, but like they're like an introduction or them checking in on if it's supposed to happen, is it going the way that it's supposed to happen? Um Even if we see one agent pop up because something was different and then it was called back upon in the show, I feel like that would have been enough of a sprinkle in to kind of tie things together a bit better. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah,
is
a tie-in, some kind of a reference to TVA would have been so sweet to see, like someone being, zapped with a stick, and just that's all it would be needed. It's like, what the hell happened there? Like, why did this guy disappear? Would have been
right.
so sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like how we saw the continuation of, okay, Loki went away, right? So then it's like we saw that wasn't ever touched upon in the movie anymore, but then we saw that
Hmm.
being brought back up in the show. It's like, okay, well that's the moment that we saw, and it ties it in. Like a moment like that with the TVA, even if it was done in the Loki show, but just going back to tie it would have been way better. But you
Indeed,
know,
indeed. I'm almost at the end of my notes, so it's not going to take much longer. But I would like to hear your thoughts on the Howard Stark scenes in this movie. I'm gonna compare it to the young Hank Pym, that was just short and sweet. We
mhm.
saw him, we saw him like very much in his younger years with like this ugly ass haircut and stuff. But it was still him, with his old man voice. And I just kind of, it was a cool reference, But like the Howard Stark scenes with Tony Stark were just to me so prolonged, and he was so awkward, so suspicious. It's like I feel like Howard Stark would have immediately called the guards or noticed that this guy is up to something. It's just probably a spy, and to me it was kind of idiotic. And I know that it relied a lot on like hey, let's make the fact that Tony Stark will die very sad, and let's give him this tie-in with his dad
A
that
bit
he
of
felt
closure.
so
Yeah.
much about. I thought it was a bit overdone. How did you feel about it?
So I thought that I want to say the result of it or the feeling was sweet. I think it was a nice moment. With him and his father and him, having a daughter and um it was sweet, but I think it was one of those moments that really felt again like a bit shoehorned in, and it was one of those moments that I had to push my suspension of disbelief a bit more because like it was a bit awkward, and there was a couple of red flags. Like I think it's like we're just ignoring red flags for the sake of the plot.
Indeed, I think that's the best way to describe it. Shoehorned in. It could have been done a bit more tastefully, perhaps. Like a cool reference, would have been more impactful than like this soap opera drama. It's just, I don't know, it felt a bit strange.
Yeah,
But it's done, of course. Tony died, and
we did see
I
Jarvis in
have
that scene though, right?
I love that. That was the
That
only
was
thing I liked
awesome.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
that we connected the voice, and it was just so sweet. And it's the same actor that plays Vision, I presume, right? Well, he's probably just just CGI fully,
I think yeah.
but yeah, still very sweet. The voice and the fact that we could see the person for the first time, like the actual actor, how he looks. It's very
Yeah,
sweet.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, stuff like that I absolutely adore. But if it like hits you in the face,
Yeah, but
for
you
so
can
long.
see how, in comparison to the entire scene, we both really like something that's super subtle in that scene.
Yeah, and I guess there is something for everyone. So in this case, I can't really complain.
Right.
I hated how Gwyneth Paltrow said goodbyes to Tony Stark when he was dying. It's like, Tony, we're gonna be okay. You can rest now. It's like, he saved the world. He saved you. He saved your child. He saved everyone. Tell him thank you. Tell him,
Aw.
oh, Tony, we're gonna miss you. You did so great. It's like,
So, you
could
know,
have done better.
I I actually really like that scene for a couple of different reasons. Um, if you notice or when you watch that scene really closely, she she kept her shit together the entire time until Tony died. And then she broke down. And that was something that she was doing for him. Um for for him to go with peace, for him to understand that his sacrifice means something and that he's not leaving them to to fall apart. And I think it was really sweet. There was also a moment right before that where she kind of lets like Spider-Man have like his moment, and then um she gets in there, but without like it's some you would think that somebody that would like lost the person they love would just be kind of fucking going ape shit or whatever. But I think she tried to stay strong for Tony, and I thought it was super sweet, I think.
I think that's a very charitable interpretation, and I will not poke any holes in it. I guess this is a personal kind of thing. What you would prefer to hear whenever you die. I guess I would have preferred her to just cry her eyes out and like ugly cry and like I don't know, like puke, from all the sadness and just
Yeah.
show like a visceral emotion. It's like, I'm gonna miss you so much. You did so great. I require adoration. I require applause. Whenever I die, I want like everyone to just fall down on the ground, just covered in tears and just, wincing in pain, that they're just so sad to see me depart from this world. That's the kind of ideal
And you know
way for
what
me
the
to go.
funny part about that is that Iron Man 1 Tony would have probably wanted that.
Yep.
But Endgame Tony, I think, would have respected knowing that he did that for his family.
Ah.
And I
Well,
think
that's actually very sweet. Yeah, I can't really fault any logic in that.
yeah. I mean, it's like any kind of situation, right? You kind of bring your own perspective into it. Like when it comes to like loss and something that's very sentimental, it's like how does it hit you? And I think that that's kind of what I picked out of it. But yeah,
I guess it's time for me to share my favorite quote of the movie. Are you ready?
yes, I am so ready.
What do you think it's gonna be?
Oh shit. I know that it's gonna be something something a bit more philosophical, I think. Um it's not gonna be I don't know why I thought about this, but I thought about War Machine talking about going back in time and choking Thanos, baby Thanos. And I'm like,
Yeah, like when he
that's
did the news.
yeah. I'm like, that's not gonna be.
That's honestly a great suggestion, and it was very funny when I saw it.
um, so I don't know. I can't really think of anything. What is it?
You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are.
Oh my god,
You
yes.
will.
I
And then she fucking kicked his ass so
I
bad.
quote that all the time to people on Discord. Like, I don't even know who you are. But yeah, the fact that she was like seconds away from murdering this guy.
Yep, he literally had to like bombard the entire planet with his ship to save himself. She is confirmed stronger than Thanos.
He sacrificed so many of his troops to stop Scarlet Witch, and I think that's amazing because she is that type of character, you know.
Yeah.
And then
She
you
was
have
so
what's her
little in
face
this movie.
flying through the ship, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, we have this secret weapon, you know, that will come back in the last possible minute, you know, with her Karen haircut and save us all. No, go fuck yourself. Scarlet
Yeah.
Witch is the fucking the
goat.
so great.
She reminds
She
me
is the goat.
Captain Marvel in the movie reminded me of Goku. You're probably not very familiar with Dragon Ball Z, but like Goku's like always dead and comes back at the last second for the fight. And he's like one of the most powerful people, but he's never around for the full fights. And that's kind of what happened with this girl. She just comes at the end and destroys the shit. But yeah.
Indeed. Well, we're almost in the end. I have two last mentions in my
We're in the
notes.
end game now.
Yeah, we're in the end game now, indeed. So let's get the ugliest, most hateful part of this podcast out of the way, and the fact that Steve Rogers is the most selfish prick of an asshole, and he is my least favorite character in the MCU universe after what he did. And even upon my 4-3 watch, where I was less insulted by it and more just bored by it because I watched it so many times, I can understand that this is all about, you know, romance and sacrifices and the fact that he earned this, you know. Maybe he will just, you know, get a little bit of a taste of this fruit, you know, that he just refused to embrace all this time, you know, and constantly being there for others and stuff. But like, he returns the stones. He then doesn't come back, and he returns back to his timeline, you know, when he was supposed to be frozen, and you know, the romantic music all time starts playing. But I just can't get over the fact that he essentially ruined everything he has ever done since he was frozen. He killed all those people, you know. He changed the course of history. He may have created like a different branch, different timeline, but like, how did he then end up in the timeline, you know, that everyone else is in? It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He didn't go back into the past. He went into a different past, and then he should have appeared in a different future, because this is not his future anymore. It doesn't make any sense. He was just supposed to disappear by the movie's logic.
From my point of view, this was an entirely different Steve Rogers, right? Like, he went back to this timeline, but it must have created another branch. But it didn't create another branch for us because we're in the present. Like, nothing has changed. And this is where it gets a little messy because of that type of storytelling, right? So he didn't really care about how things changed in one branch, or how he affected the new branch, I should say, because he doesn't change our existing one, but how him being in that branch affects that new branch. It could be, and he was a super soldier, right? Like, it could completely bring a new line of villains. It could have destroyed civilizations. It could have done anything, and he didn't care because he knew that whatever events happened on his original branch timeline doesn't get changed. he's basically just saying, I'll deal with whatever happens in this new branch. But who are you?
Yeah.
Did
This is not the Steve Rogers that we fell in love since the first Captain America, that
Yeah.
we saw progress and evolve. The one that even in this movie was very strong, very adamant about moving on, looking into the future, looking on the bright side, just being positive, sacrificing, being there for others.
Mhm.
Remember the blonde agent, that was so into him that turned out to be the child or just some kind of a descendant of,
I think
you know,
niece.
yeah, niece. Yeah, I think that's exactly that. He literally killed her. She never had a chance to be born. And yeah, sure, others could have been there, in her place. But like, wouldn't he remember her still? Like, wouldn't he be concerned about all of this?
Right, and he
Like,
kind of had a moment with her, and
yeah.
well, I mean, she could have still been born, right? Because if she was a niece, the sister or brother or whatever who had her could have still had her, but it doesn't erase the fact that like you and I had a moment, and if now I'm with your aunt and you exist, you're also my niece.
Mm-hmm. And
So
who then stop Hydra? Like, remember the movie, when
so
he...
the way that I like to think about it in my head canon is that he went back in time and he didn't stop being Captain America. So he was Captain America in that new branch. He did, all his whatever missions he wanted to do and whatever, saving the world. It was all different, right? And even though this wasn't hinted upon or whatever, I like to think that after um Peggy passes away, he then traveled back to our timeline. Like that's how I like to make sense of it, because now he lived his whole life and now he comes back um to where he was supposed to be, because that's the only way that it would make sense to me, that you lived this whole life and you still met up with us here, but this isn't your timeline, you know. Like how did
It
you
hurts my brain.
it does that's why I can't really think about it, except for the fact that it was sweet that he gave the shield to Falcon. Like I just think about that moment, because if I think about the logistics of it, I'm like, you shouldn't even be here. This is a different branch.
Yeah, and I hate the argument. Just turn off your brain. Just don't think about it. And I absolutely am able to do this
Yeah.
with some of the movies that I adore, and it's necessary for this instance. I feel like, but I just wish I wouldn't have to. I feel like this movie deserved a bit better. In that the character deserved a bit better, and I'm just kind of sad that this was his conclusion. This was his ending.
Mhm.
It could have been done differently. I feel like.
Yeah, it
I
was
would have
sweet.
preferred.
I think they were going for the sweet factor of him finally getting to live the life that was ripped from him. Um, and always being a man outside of his time. And I think that because, um we got to see Tony, I guess the beginnings of a family, because he ends up dying. But um they decided to do something that heartwarming for Cap. But I think at this point, I feel like I would have just told myself as Cap that this is my home now. Like I'm no longer a man out of time. This is my time.
Yeah, and that's what I would have preferred. Just this whole blip, the fact that we couldn't just go fix the past and continue from there and eliminate this ugly ass shitty timeline. The fact that we had to keep these 4 years of where 50% of our population was destroyed, and then we just kind of, live and continue. And the fact that some movies kind of reference it, others, like the TV shows, completely ignore it. That's
Mhm.
no. I can't really get behind that. I think that they should have just go back to the past, fix that, and take it from there. And if they want to like eliminate the impact from the blip and the whole Thanos fight, this is not exactly the kind of consequence that I would have preferred for the franchise to resolve and to continue dealing with.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan, but it also, because I didn't really care about it, it didn't really ruin anything for me. I was just like, okay, well, I mean, that happened. It doesn't make sense, but I don't care. Let's
Yeah,
move on.
and that's fair. I have nitpicked way too much, and I would just like to actually conclude things on a good message because I really liked this final quote that was mentioned, which is pretty much the measure of a hero is how well they succeed at who they are. I think that's a very nice message
It
to
was
kind
very
of
nice.
finish this movie on. Yeah, I I'm actually realizing that there was a lot of things, at least 50-50, the things that I liked about this movie and the things that I disliked. So I
Yeah.
cannot really treat this movie too harshly. I cannot be like, oh, this is the worst movie in the MCU franchise. I hate this one the most. No, clearly not. I hated the Spider-Man much more. At least I finished this one 4 times, and I wouldn't be able to do that with a movie I absolutely hated.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that this movie does really well for me is um concluding Tony's, character arc, because from the selfish what was it, arms dealer that he was, to like a self-sacrificing protector, like one of the best arcs that I've ever been able to witness in like a cinema. Um, and it didn't happen in one or two movies, sure, but like it was just an amazing story and journey to be on. And I think that Endgame brings it together beautifully with like all the people that he affected and all the people that were part of his life and things like that in that like funeral moment. But it was something. It was emotional to lose Tony, and it worked for the story.
He is an amazing actor, Robert Downey Jr., and he absolutely embodied Iron Man to his core, to his soul. And after this wrap up of the Iron Man character development, I feel like I may have judged the previous Iron Man movies too harshly. Another
Yeah.
reference to Thanos, of course, but I think it's very fitting to use this, and I think that all those movies are elevated the more we watch Tony kind of evolve. And you might remember, you were there when I was just throwing shade left and right on the Iron Man movies and the Iron Man himself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I judged him too harshly.
But you're not alone on that. Like I wasn't a fan of Iron Man 3, or Iron Man 2 was fine. Iron Man 3 was not a huge fan, but the more that you go along in this journey, the more that you can appreciate all of the struggles that Tony goes through in some of those movies. And yeah, you put it perfectly. They're all elevated by the entirety of his journey.
But at the same time, like we cannot really expect every single character to get this kind of treatment to like be developed over the course of, I don't know, 10 plus years. And it's a shame
Right.
because
That
they
is
did a
true.
great job with Iron Man. And I guess to some degree with Captain America too, and with others. But it's just a joy seeing these characters that have this room, to be around for so long and to experience so many situations and to still remain consistent, within their moral codes. And I'm just glad that even in this movie, at the end of Iron Man's journey, we saw him as bitter, we saw him as defeated, we saw him as dealing with his demons and being self-righteous. And yeah, it was just very, very nicely done.
Agreed. Well, sir,
All right,
do you have any finishing
take
notes?
us away. No, I have nothing.
I think rightfully so. There was a lot to discuss with this movie because, like I said before, it wasn't just the conclusion of what was the Infinity Stone saga or the Thanos saga, or it it was like a celebration of everything that they accomplished up to that point, and it was amazing. It was a crazy journey to go through, ups and downs, and a lot of characters we got to love and fall in love with again along the journey. But John, I'm really happy that you actually decided to take this journey and see what it is that everyone else experienced throughout time. But thank you for being open to doing this, and thank you for now being able to reference these pop culture phenomenons, and quotes and such. But
No,
this
sir.
isn't the end.
the honor was all mine, because if it wasn't for you, I would have never watched these movies. I would have remained ignorant about the depth, about the amazing characters, about the world building that I was missing out on, the cohesive glue that just connected everything together. And yeah, I have seen some of my most favorite movies and characters ever in this journey. And I'm just so glad that you insisted. And this podcast definitely helped my,
Motivation.
I would say, yeah, motivation, desire, to kind of sum up my thoughts, because I love nitpicking these movies.
Yeah.
I love overanalyzing them, and I love hearing what others think about them, because I learn a lot. I don't always get everything from watching or reading, or just, it just helps to have other perspectives. It helps me. It helps me challenge my thoughts, my preconceived notions, my misinterpretations, or even things that I may judge too harshly, and I may feel like, hey, this affected me in this way, but who's to say others felt differently. And yeah, I'm just so glad that you were this guide on this journey for me, and you kept me in check. And I hope that I also helped you see things from a different perspective of someone who wasn't there for like the live cinematic viewing of these movies, who just watched them on Disney Plus or in pirated websites, sometimes like 3 a day, but yeah, it was very cool. I'm glad that we got here. This is certainly the end of an era when it comes to the MC universe, but there are still many shows and many movies that, of course, we don't have to go through all of them.
Yeah.
But I would certainly love to chat with you, WandaVision and Loki show at least.
I completely agree. I think that it was this is a good place to call it for like the movies, or at least the structure. But there are some things that I really want to discuss, because there is some amazing storytelling still that's happening in the MCU with WandaVision and Loki and some of the other things. And yeah, this is not this part of the movies are, I think we're gonna call it, but we are now gonna kind of freely discuss other things that we wish to discuss, because movies are all subjective. And